Hi gang, Mr. G here, and welcome to my backyard. And today we're going to have a little backyard barbecue, only we're not making hamburgers. We're actually going to throw this pan that I've been working on over the fire. And the reason why we're doing that is that the steel is very weak right now after all of the work I've done on it. And I can show you that really well with this note right here. This is my biggest note. It's middle C. It's my lowest note and the largest. And it has the longest span across its surface. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can definitely hear that I'm able to, just with one finger, I'm able to pop it in and out. So that demonstrates that this steel in here has gotten quite weak. So what we're going to try to do is put more strength back in the steel. A little background on the science here of all of this. Steel is made primarily of iron with some carbon in it, and most makers put a little some extra mineral elements in the steel to give it certain qualities, like maybe either hardness or bendability and some other things like that. Steel barrels are actually made from cold rolled steel, where after they've poured the molten steel out on a flat surface and it's been rolled hot, they go back over it while it's not as hot, and it's called cold rolling. And what that does is it creates a hardened, it creates a harder steel. You know, it's only this thick, but it's very, very hard, very strong. And it creates a microstructure of the grains that are a part of the steel. By pounding and reshaping the steel, I've broken down a lot of the grains, a lot of the microstructures in the steel. And so the steel has lost its strength. The grains are all in disarray, and there are some points of stored energy in the steel that could fracture or rupture later on if I was to work it more. We need to add back some of the strength of the steel so that it can hold its shape and its tuning, but we can't strengthen it so much that it's too hardened to tune with a hammer. Steel pan builders have to find a sweet spot, a little Goldilocks zone, between two different techniques of heat treating. One is called annealing and the other is called tempering. Annealing is where the metal is held at a certain temperature until the microstructure can rearrange itself and the grains can recrystallize. And then the metal is allowed to slowly cool down in a controlled way. And this technique usually results in steel that's more malleable, more flexible, and can be worked and is softer and will bend without breaking. The other technique, tempering, is where the metal is heated enough to allow the microstructure to rearrange itself, just like annealing, but the metal is cooled rapidly and it kind of freezes the grains in place. And they do that with either cold water or cold oil. Tempering is used to harden the metal, but it can make the metal very brittle as well. And we don't want our pan to be so hard that I can't tune it. I still have to shape the pan. I still have to tune it. I'm still going to work it with the hammer. But I want to make sure that the steel will hold its shape and that I can play the instrument without knocking it out of tune. So what we're doing is actually kind of a hybrid between annealing and tempering, because this steel is very, very thin. And so if I pull it off the fire, if I heat it up to a certain point, and that certain point is often described by steel pan builders as when the steel starts to turn blue. If I pull it off and just let it air cool, it will cool off fairly rapidly, just in the open air, because the metal is so thin. So it's almost a hybrid between annealing and tempering. Well, here goes nothing. We'll let the kitty cat time it for us. The way I was taught was that it takes about 10 minutes over a fire like this for the pan to heat up to the proper temperature. The smoke that you see is the residue from the inside of the pan burning off, and it's vegetable glycerin. I'll be glad to see that go, because it's been all over my fingers for the last week. if the metal gets too hot or for too long, it will lose its strength and will have to be retempered. And the rule of thumb here is that we're looking for some bluing of the steel, and I've already seen it in just a couple of isolated places, but I rotated the barrel so that it doesn't get too hot in any one place. And I think we're getting there. It's definitely a source of heat right now. Sometimes when a pan is burned like this, it comes out and portions of it are hardened just right and hit the Goldilocks spot, and other parts still need further strengthening. And so later on we can take a torch and surround the area with some cold towels and do a quench, heat up the area and then throw some cold water on it, and that will strengthen just that one area. Baked steel pan. Well, going around the edge here, and all of my big notes have structural strength to them now. I can't put my thumb and make it pop like I could before the fire. So it worked.